All right, so for today, we are talking about adding and subtracting rational numbers, and it's a quick check. And here's just a funny little meme to get us started. It says 5 out of 4 people have problems with fractions. I don't know if you get that or not, but you can't have 5 out of 4. 4 has to be the total. So anyways, today is talking about adding and subtracting fractions, and I know for a lot of us that freaks us out. I don't want you to be scared. And I'm really going to spend a lot of time today showing you how to use the calculator, because if you can use the calculator well, then you can do these. All right, so to start off with, we want to find the LCD, the least common denominator of 1/4 and 3/5. Well, first of all, we need to know what a denominator is. A denominator is the bottom number of a fraction. So this is kind of how you're always going to organize your thoughts when you're trying to find an LCD. You're going to take your denominators, which mine are 4 and 5, and then you're just going to find their multiples. And when we do multiples, we just multiply it by whole numbers. So I'm going to do 1 times 4, which is 4, and then I'm going to do 2 times 4, which is 8, 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 4 is 20, and 6 times 4 is 24. You can keep going as long as you want. I usually do like the first 5 or 6 numbers, and then I stop and I check to see if I found something in common yet. So now I'm going to go ahead and do it for 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. And 5 times 6 is 30. Now I'm looking for the common one, the least common one. So I'm going to start at the top of my list, and the very first number I come to that's the same, I know is my least common denominator. So they both don't have 4 or 5, they both don't have 8 or 10, 12 or 15, 16, no, but 20. Now notice they're not in the same step of the table. That does not matter. What matters is that's the first number that they have in common. So that is the least common denominator. So in this example, my LCD, or my least common denominator, would equal 20. All right, what is the difference between 2/5 and 1/10? So first of all, we need to know the word difference means subtract. So we're going to be subtracting those. And I'm going to show you how to do a calculator for all of these problems. So let's go look at the calculator. And here's my little hint. It says make sure you use parentheses in Desmos. So let's go check that out. Here in my calculator app, now I wanted to show you, if you just start clicking without parentheses and you try to do 2 divided by 5 minus 1 divided by 10, you get something that looks way weird and it gives you the wrong answer. So you can't just start typing it. What you have to do is you have to do each fraction in its own parentheses. So I'm going to do parentheses, and then I'm going to do 2 divided by 5. That was my first fraction. And I'm going to use my over arrow to get off the bottom, and then I'm going to close my parentheses. Whoops. And then I'm subtracting, and then I need a new parentheses for my 1/10 fraction. So I'm going to do parentheses, 1 divided by 10. I don't want to close my parentheses here on the bottom. Let me show you what that would look like. It would give you another weird set of parentheses down there. So when you get done typing your fraction, make sure you use the over arrow to get to the side of it, and then you can close your parentheses. Now this gives me the answer. 2/5 minus 1/10 is 0.3. But most likely your answer is going to be as a fraction. So remember, you have this button over here that converts it from a fraction to a decimal, back and forth. So if you type it in Desmos and you get a decimal, but you want it as a fraction, hit that button over there, and that tells you that it is 3/10. So if I pop back over here, 2/5 minus 1/10 equals 3/10. Now, if you wanted to do this without your Desmos calculator, you would have to get common denominators. You would have to multiply each fraction by the common denominator and then subtract. So what that would look like, the common denominator between 5 and 10, we'd make our table. I'm only going to show you this once because this is not the way that I normally do it. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to start multiplying. 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4. And then I'm going to do 10 times 1, 10 times 2, 10 times 3, 10 times 4. And I look for the least one that they have in common. They both have a 10. That is my LCD. So then I have to ask myself, well, what do I need to multiply 5 by in order to make it a 10? and I would have to multiply 5 times 2. But whatever I do to the bottom, I have to also do to the top. So I would change this to 4/10. This one already has the denominator of 10, so I don't have to do anything there. And then when you subtract, you keep the denominator the same, and you just subtract the numerator. So 4 minus 1 is 3. If you want to do all of that by hand, you are welcome to do that. For the rest of this video, I'm going to show you how to use Desmos because I think that is crucial that we can use our technology. All right, if Sandy's cookie recipe calls for 2/3 cup of brown sugar and she increases it by 2/9 cups, so increases is an important word. We need to know what that means in math. How much brown sugar does she use? So if we're increasing something, we're adding something to it. We're making it bigger. So I'm going to take my 2/3 and I'm going to add 2/9 to it to figure out how much that is. Now remember, you can make a table, find an LCD, do all of that, but I'm going to show you how to use Desmos. So here we go. I got to get rid of what's already here, and then remember, if you don't see your keypad, you got to click in it in the corner. Now when I type in fractions, I have to use parentheses. So parentheses, 2 divided by 3, that's 2/3. I got to get out of the bottom here and then close my parentheses. And then I'm adding 2/9 to that. And remember, 2/9 is a fraction, so I need to put it in parentheses. 2 divided by 9. Get out of the bottom and close your parentheses. Now it gives me the answer as a decimal, but I can convert that to a fraction by hitting this fraction to decimal button. And my answer is 8/9. So she used, 8/9 cup of brown sugar. Goodness, I wish I could talk. All right, what value could be added to 2/13 to make the sum greater than 1/2? Okay, so we're taking 2/13. We're adding a number to it, which we don't know what number, and we want it to be greater than 1/2. So I kind of wrote myself a little inequality here, and I'm going to think about how am I going to solve this inequality. Remember, you want to get the letter by itself, so you ask yourself, what is on the same side as the letter that you need to get rid of? And in this case, I need to get rid of 2/13. Right now, I'm adding it, so the opposite would be to subtract 2/13 from each side. That will cancel, and then whatever I get should be my answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 1/2 minus 2/13, and I'm going to put that in my calculator. So let me go do that. Where is it? Here we go. Clear that out. Remember, fractions have to be in parentheses, so 1 divided by 2, and then close your parentheses, plus, I already forgot what it was, 2/3, okay? So again in parentheses, 2/13, that's a big difference. 2 divided by 13, and then I close my parentheses. It gives me this really ugly decimal, but I want it as a fraction, so here we go. As a fraction, that's 17/26. Now, if you saw 17/26 as an answer, you could pick that x had to be greater than that, but you're probably not going to see that as an answer. So now we have to think through this. We need our value to be greater than this, 17/26. And if we go back to our calculator, remember 17/26 was 0.65, blah, 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 blah. So if I'm looking at my answer choices, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide each of those in my calculator to see which one is greater than 0.65. It cannot be equal to that or less than that because we need it to be greater than. So like let's say an answer choice was, I don't know, I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say it was 1/3. So I would go over here and I would type in 1 divided by 3, and that's 0.33. That's not greater than 0.65. Let's say that the next answer choice was 2/3. So I would do 2 divided by 3. That's 0.66, which is greater than 0.65. So 2/3 could be an answer. So you kind of have to still think through the answers to get your final thing. All right, which set of mixed numbers has a difference less than 1? So remember, difference means subtract. So we're going to be subtracting each of these to see which one has a difference less than 1. So it can be anything less than 1. So it could be like 0.5 or 0.8 or anything like that, okay? Now when I do this, if you're going to use Desmos, you have to convert them to an improper fraction first. So So you do need to know how to do that. If I'm going to take this first one and convert it to an improper fraction, you multiply the denominator times the number, and then you add in the numerator. So 9 times 1 is 9, plus 2 is 11, and then you keep the denominator the same. And then here I multiply 9 times 1 and then add the top. So 9 times 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Keep the denominator the same. Now I don't even need to do this in Desmos because they already have a common denominator, so I can just subtract the top. 11 minus 10 is 1. Let's look at how to do the rest of these just to make sure you're comfortable with this. To change it to an improper fraction, you multiply and then add. So 3 times 7 is 21. Plus 4 is 25. You keep the denominator the same. And then we're going to multiply and add. 2 times 7 is 14. Plus 1 is 15. Keep the denominator the same. And since they have common denominators, you would just subtract the numerator. 25 minus 15 is 10. I'm just going to keep doing this because it's good practice. Multiply and add. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Keep the denominator the same. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Keep the denominator the same. When you subtract them, you only do the numerator. Oh, wait, this should be a... Wait a minute. Those are not common denominators, so you can't just subtract them. I was getting ahead of myself there. These you would have to get common denominators for or use Desmos. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here, though, because I already have one that is less than 1. Now, when I look at my answers, I have 1/9 and 10/7, and you might not automatically know which one's less than 1. So you could go to your calculator, and you could type in 10 divided by 7, and that tells you it's 1.4. That's not less than 1. Or you could go over here, and you could type in 1 divided by 9, and that one is less than 1. Anytime your top number is smaller than, well, never mind. Yeah, that one's less than 1. I was going to tell you something that was not a true statement. So A, this one is our answer, because when we subtract them, we do get a value less than 1. And then for our last question, I did rearrange the answer choices on these, so these are not in the right order. But I'm hopeful that you can pick out the correct answer after we go over it. So what they've done on the number line is they have gotten common denominators. So I'm going to start by doing that. So I'm looking at all my denominators. Right now I have a 3, a 6, and a 2. Well, 6 is actually a common denominator, the least common denominator for all of them. So if I wanted to convert 3 to 6, I'd have to multiply it by 2. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I could change this first fraction to 4/6. Now I'm going to change this to an improper fraction by multiplying and then adding. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7/6. And then I got to multiply this by 3 in order to make it a 6 on the bottom. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So what they want you to do is they want you to start at 0, go to 4/6. So let's see, we start at 0, we go to 4/6. That one's correct. Here they started at 0 and they went to 2/6. That's not right. Here they started at 0 and they went to 1 and 1. Whoa, I don't even know what that says. Here they started at 0 and they went to 4/6, okay? From there, we want to add 7/6 to it. So each of these are going in the right direction. We want to add 7/6 to it. And then we want to subtract 3/6, which means we have to go backwards because we're subtracting. This one, notice it keeps going forward, so it's adding, which means that's not going to be correct. Another way that you could double check yourself here is you could put all of this in Desmos to make sure that it ends up where it's supposed to. I just came to Desmos and I typed it in how it was originally. Originally it was 2/3 and 1 1/6, and then, oh wait, I didn't even do that right. That was supposed to be 1/2. This is what it was originally. So if you're not comfortable finding an LCD, then you can type it in as it is originally, and notice it should equal 1.33, which if we convert that, that's also the same as 4/3 or 1 1/3. Look back at our answer choices. This one ends at 1, that doesn't work. This one ends at 2 1/3, that doesn't work. This one ends at 0. This one right here is the only one that ends at 1 1/3 or 1 2/6. Those are the same thing. So that's another way that you could think about it. All right, y'all, good luck on this quiz.